smash the like button, and subscribe. Yo, what's up? How old are you? Do
What's up? I'm 31.
you support Trump?
I do.
The election were held today. Harris versus Trump. Who would you rather vote for?
Trump, even though that election will never happen again, but Trump.
For sure. Okay, so why do you support Trump?
It comes down to two or three very simple ideas, and I'll do it in order of importance to me. Number one is in the geopolitical scene. I don't believe that Trump is necessarily a good actor, but I believe he's better than the weak policies of the Democratic Party and the de-escalation at all cost. You know, when the United States is all about de-escalation at all cost, then people can run all over us.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Are you driving?
No, I'm not driving.
Okay,
I'm in an Uber.
Just making sure. Sorry, continue.
I'm in the back of an Uber. What was I saying? When it comes to de-escalation at all costs, countries know that they can do whatever they want and they won't receive any blowback from the United States. So even though the United States has an immense military strength, they know that the United States won't use it. They knew that Biden wouldn't use it. They knew Obama wouldn't use it. And that's why they were able to run all over us, in my opinion. Now, do I think that this war with Iran is a great thing? No, I don't. But to confront Iran the way that the United States did, I think is something that needed to happen, and that was never going to happen in a Democratic Party. At least Iran now knows that the United States is willing to do it. I hope this ends right now. I hope that they don't go back to war. But I think it's very important in terms of the reverberations it has with China and Taiwan too. I think it's really important to show strength, or at least a willingness to act. That's number one. Number two, I believe that just like in the previous thing, I don't think Trump is great for the fabric of America. For the soul of America. I don't. But what I also don't think is great for the soul of America is just a hyper focus on. Sorry, I got a call. A hyper focus on trans issues, on gender issues. I'm not saying they're not important. That's not what I'm saying. But just the hyper focusedness on it, where everything is about race, everything is about gender, everything is about all that stuff. I think it's bad for the soul of America.
That's actually the conservative party that's perpetuating that narrative, right? It's commonly the conservatives that constantly bring those things up, specifically in a negative context, and not the left that's bringing it up in the first place. We just want people to be accepted and treated well, right? That's all we're advocating for, which is the basic thing that we apply to every single person already. So that's not unique in this context. And right, they're just trying to bring it up in order to be able to distract you away from the fact that they're advocating for economic policy that disenfranchises the working class to the benefit of the very richest amongst us that are already not paying a fair share. Right? I'm not saying the top income tax earners specifically that are paying into the tax system, the income tax structure. What I'm saying is specifically the people that make money through the context of capital gains and the largest levels of net worth within our society. Right, the top 400 billionaires, they pay a lower effective tax rate than the working class. So I think that really they're trying to distract you or like from the wrong, from the right issues is really the point that I think conservatives are trying to do there. But broadly, at least in terms of the other points you brought up, you think that confronting Iran prevents China from invading Taiwan. I would actually argue that it might increase the likelihood that something like that might happen. And the reason why I would say that is because it justifies, right, China acting in that way, in taking other sovereign territory. Right, given that Donald Trump's engaging in behaviors such as starting wars of aggression, such as calling for the annexation of countries such as Greenland and Canada, right? And I think that those things actually normalize the idea that Taiwan might be taken by China, rather than actually what the Democrats were doing, which clearly wasn't normalizing that. Wouldn't have sent us to war with Iran, which bolsters support for Iran, which is bad. Not only for. Go ahead.
I got you. What I'm saying is, if you think that China needed justification for it, and that's what international actors wait for precedent to be set, you're wrong about that. That's not the way the geopolitical world works. Countries will do things that they think they can get away with, not things that have been justified or something that a precedent has been made already. China knows that with Trump in office right now, I'm not saying this is necessarily the best thing in the world, but they know that with Trump in office, they're going to get a response that isn't just words. Okay, Trump, who's very quick to use military force, might go in and send forces over there and that threaten China and threaten their economic interests and all this stuff. I'm not saying that this is the best thing for the world in terms of peace. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm telling you is that countries don't wait for precedent or justification. Countries do what they think they can get away with and what benefits them economically and in terms of conquering.
Okay. So I think that doing this sets the precedent, which causes them to think that they can get away with it on the world stage. Like, does that make sense? I do think that geopolitical actors do work based upon precedents because they're trying to think about what they can get away with, and precedents, at least to some extent, tells them what they can get away with.
So I think that a lot of I think that the wars that were started in the last several years uh, began because they were under the assumption that America wouldn't intervene, or at least wouldn't intervene with force and would just intervene with words.
I
That's why
disagree. I think that the Biden
I know you
administration made it clear that they would defend, right, our allies, like specifically like Ukraine, for example, which Donald Trump actually undermined. So actually, the idea of defending your allies is more likely going to be true under the Democrats, and also because the Democrats bolster support amongst our allies, have better relationships with our allies to be able to establish those conditions diplomatically in the first place. Whereas Trump has issues with that because of the fact that he's engaged in certain foreign policy that distances us from our allies. He's also undermined defense of Ukraine, for example, which is a part of defending our allies. So he's more focused on like what is going to be a war of aggression or offensive wars, things like that, rather than he actually is defending, which actually might make them think that they might be able to get away with it because the U.S. has gotten away with it.
Yeah, but you're speaking about words. I'm speaking about actions. We could talk about the wars. The Ukrainian war began under the Biden administration. The Hamas invaded Israel while the Biden administration was in office. These things were not happening when Trump was in office. So my question to you is, if that's the case, and if people know that the Biden administration were the ones that were going to defend American allies, all this stuff, then how come two wars on American allies started when they were in administration and not when Trump was in office?
I think that's a correlation causation fallacy. I think you're saying that just because it happened under the Biden administration, that means it was caused by the Biden administration. Therefore, under your own reasoning, the same thing would be true for COVID under Trump.
No, it wasn't caused. It was not caused by the Biden administration. Sir, I would never blame the Biden administration for that. What I know is that they operated in that with the assumption that the United States was not come in and support, at least militarily, and they were right about that.
That's just
Were they not?
No.
Oh, so the Biden administration came in militarily to help Israel and Ukraine?
No, they funded them specifically in both scenarios. And by the way,
I didn't talk about funding. I said militarily.
yeah, I don't think that there was going to be a military response. I mean, Ukraine's not a part of NATO, neither is Israel.
So maybe, if the Trump administration was in office, these bad actors would not have acted because they would have been afraid of Trump's speed of using military action, that it might be used against them in response. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but Trump didn't bring in U.S. military response in Ukraine either. So I don't know what your point is here. What's your
Perhaps if
And also, are you trying to say that, again, because it happened under Biden's administration, that means it's caused by Biden? Because, again, that means that COVID was caused by Trump.
Once again, Parker, I never said that it was caused by Biden. I actually said the opposite. I said it was not caused by Biden. But do I think that it happened when Biden was in office intentionally? Especially,
do you think it would have happened if Trump were in office?
I do not believe that either of those invasions would have happened if Trump was in office.
Yeah, but what's your evidence of that, other than just like, I feel like it because I think Trump is strong and cool?
You can't prove something that didn't happen, okay? I can't come.
Wait, so then why do you believe it? Why do you believe something without evidence?
Why do I believe it? Because people view, in the international stage, people view Trump as what you probably view him as, which is a madman. And people don't want to mess with a madman, and they don't
covering
want
your mic a little bit.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
They don't want to mess with a madman. Okay, so that's
they don't.
We don't want our leaders to be insane. I'm sorry. This is such a crazy thing that people bring up. I'm sorry.
Not saying that Trump is not insane. I'm not.
Wait, no, but like, why do you want your leader? No. Stop. You're misunderstanding me. You're saying he's a madman. You're trying to argue that's a good thing. You're pro him being a nut job. That's bad. That's not a good thing. I want life to not be crazy. I want my leader to be.
I want you to listen to my words.
All right. I'll listen to you and then let me know when I can speak.
Okay, thank you. I never said he was a madman. I said people view him as a madman. Now, once again, I'm not a big supporter of Trump. I don't think he's good for the country. I just think he's better than the alternative. And I never called him a madman. I said people around the world view him as a madman, which is the truth if you leave America.
Yeah, but you're trying to argue that is a good thing, right?
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for other countries to think of our president as one who's quick to use our military if we're slighted. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
I think that that was already something that's true under either administration. If someone attacks us, we will defend ourselves. That's just a fact under either administration. The issue with Trump is that he's a madman and he might just attack your country randomly. He might just try to expand the US's borders. He might just try to annex an ally, right? That's literally the things that he set as precedents for what he wants to do, right? So, I mean, why don't you look at any of those things as problems, not as things that are like, oh, yeah, you know what? That's going to cause countries to be less likely to attack us. They were not going to attack us either way, okay? These are specific circumstances around the world. These are not attacking us. And you're trying to argue that they wouldn't have happened if Biden wasn't in office.
So
and you have no evidence of that.
So you think it's a coincidence that these generational wars happen during a Democratic administration and not during a Trump administration?
Absolutely.
Okay. I hope you have a good day.
Well, are you just going to leave and not address it or give me any evidence?
I made my point. Wait, Parker, you know that I can't bring evidence on something that hasn't happened.
So then why do you believe it?
Or the attorney. We went over this already. If you want me to keep talking about it, I can, if you'd like me to. But
I don't think you explained it.
I made okay.
Why do I believe it? All right.
When you have, would you believe that the Biden administration and a potential Kamala administration, do you believe that they are less likely to be confrontational on the world stage?
Yes.
Than a Trump administration? Okay. So if you have an administration that's less likely to be confrontational, then don't you think that gives incentive to our adversaries to act in more aggressive ways because they know that the blowback might be a little less severe? Oh, bro, come on. You can be against Trump while acknowledging that could be a truth. Come on.
No, I don't think that just because someone's more confrontational, that makes it good. Things like confrontation.
No, I didn't say good. Parker, I didn't say good.
So let me please finish.
Go ahead.
Things like confrontation are seen as like within the context of a golden rule. There's a certain level of confrontation that is good. When Trump specifically confronts allies, trying to take things from our allies, that destabilizes our relationships with our allies, that's not a good type of confrontation. Okay? So him being confrontational within that standpoint is actually a negative quality, not a positive quality. But can confrontation be good when our adversaries go against us in terms of harming our allies or harming us directly? Yeah, of course it can be. And that's something that already exists under a Democratic administration. They are confrontational on those certain things. They're just not overly confrontational in the same way that Trump is.
The first point that you made had nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Do I think it's a problem when the Trump administration goes after Greenland and said that they're going to take Greenland? Yes, I think it's a huge problem because we're talking about a United States ally and we're talking about a sovereign nation that the United States had no precedent in taking over. I think it's a problem. I have no problem admitting that. But that's not what I was talking about. I'm talking about specifically in terms of our adversaries. When our adversaries see that our government is not willing to confront or must be pushed to a certain level in order to confront, they're going to push the boundaries. Okay, and I don't think that's
that's true of every person. Oh my God, no, there's literally a boundary of confrontation with every person that exists.
100% right. So that's what I'm saying. I think that the Democrats are way too soft and hesitant to be confrontational.
In what way? Be specific.
Be specific. I think that Iran was throughout the last couple decades, Iran's main goal is, they scream Margbar America in their parliament, the death to America. And you have the Biden administration and the Obama administration looking to negotiate with them, which I think is something that you should never negotiate with people who are state sponsors of terror. And not only that, but unfreezing assets. Obama's main goal in terms of foreign policy was peace with Iran, which obviously wasn't going to happen. Okay, it just wanted his legacy to be that horrible nuclear deal that was going to be terrible. Do I think that a full-fledged war where Iran can close the Strait of Hormuz is a good thing right now? No, I think it's a terrible thing. But at least we confronted them. Okay, at least we showed that we're willing to actually put our money where our mouth is. And Iran's going to respect us. Iran's not going anywhere. I don't think they're about to be toppled. But at least they know that they can't just, excuse my language, they can't just mess with us ad nauseum. It's my opinion.
I don't think there was any evidence that they felt like they could mess with us before. Secondly, I don't think that they're respecting us more after.
Parker, I think you're on mute. Either I can't hear you or you're on mute.
It is. I apologize. I'm on mute because there's a little bit of feedback. So I don't think that this causes them to respect us any greater extent. I think that they already, in this context, wouldn't have done that under the Biden administration. I don't know why you just keep thinking that these things are true under the Biden administration. Like, oh yeah, they think that the Biden administration is doing nothing and they can just fuck with us for no reason. No, that's ridiculous. I think that's the only thing you believe because you just believe in propaganda with no evidence. All these things are just claims with no evidence, okay? And then you all say, oh, I don't want to support someone that's looking to negotiate with state sponsors of terror. Do you think Russia is a state sponsor of terror?
Yes.
Why do you think that Trump was justified in negotiating with Putin, rolling out the red carpet for Putin?
I think the two are so wildly different. So incredibly different.
What, you just said that you don't want to negotiate with state sponsors of terror. You just admitted that Russia's a state sponsor of terror, but then you're totally okay with Trump rolling out the red carpet for Putin.
Iran has been a state sponsor of terror against us. That Russia hasn't. It's still terrible.
You just said Russia is.
I don't mind. No, Russia is not a.
Isn't Russia helping fund Iran?
Not indirectly for sure, but
oh, okay. So then they are a state sponsor of terror. That's quite literally exactly what you just said Iran was doing.
What Russia hasn't done is Russia hasn't killed thousands of our soldiers with roadside bombs. Okay, Russia has not done that.
Really? Yeah, so you don't. So let's just clarify. You don't think that Ukrainian soldiers, for example, that are funded by the West, by the U.S. dollars, have been murdered by Russia?
That's Ukrainian soldiers. I don't have anything against Ukrainian soldiers, but they're not Americans.
Okay, I'm not disputing that they're not American. I never said that they were Americans. But do you think that they've been Ukrainians?
For sure, they've been in a terrible war for 4 years. For sure.
Okay, so by the way, your point is this country, Iran, 40 years ago murdered Americans. Therefore, we should go to war with them now.
40 years ago? Do you think it was 40 years ago?
Yes.
Do you think that the roadside bombs in Iraq and Afghanistan weren't from Iran?
Oh, okay. Wait, so you're saying specifically here in the 2000s, in Iraq. Okay. So if you're claiming 20 years ago, right, they murdered U.S. citizens, therefore we should go to war with them, isn't that an argument we should go to war with the Taliban?
Iran is a lot more of a threat to us than the Taliban is.
Wait, you just argued. So your whole argument would mean that we shouldn't have pulled out of Afghanistan.
Is the Taliban enriching uranium?
Okay, so your argument is now about enriched uranium. Didn't the JCPOA prevent them from enriching uranium to a greater extent than what Trump's done?
For a time.
Yeah, but like longer than what Trump's done.
Listen, I think that negotiating them when they have their underground enrichment facilities, that they don't even let the IAEA come.
No evidence of this, by the way.
Okay, so you're going to trust the government that screams
the IAEA, the surveillance that we had?
No, you're going to trust. It's not we, it's the United Nations, but you're going to trust the government that screams death to you, that they're not going against the deal that they made with you.
I think that if we don't have evidence, then we can't say that.
Okay, so you can think that. I don't trust.
And also, that's not what Trump claimed as the reason why he pulled out of the JCPOA. He claimed it's because he didn't want them building up their money.
I don't care why. I mean, I'm a fan of that too, but I don't care why Trump pulled out of it. I wanted them.
Trump got rid of all the sanctions under the 10-point plan that he'd be willing to agree with because he didn't want to do the complete end of civilization for Iranians.
I think something that you're not understanding is that I'm not some big supporter of Trump. I just think he's better than the alternative. Like I'm saying, I don't think Trump is good for the country.
I don't think anything I said supposed that.
Well, you're trying to say, well, this is what Trump did, or I'm not going to defend. I'm not.
I
saying
understand
that why
but this gets you to at least look in comparison and make the comparison between Democrats and Republicans. Now, can you tell me what's so bad about Harris that makes you want to support Trump because you think Trump is preferable?
It's not Harris as a person. It's Harris as the party that she represents. It's not. I don't. Harris stands for a lot of things that I stand for. Individually, but
so what about the party?
When you're voting for a president, you're voting for the party, in my opinion, and I am against the Democratic Party.
Yeah. So what about the Democratic Party?
Soft on international, on geopolitical issues, hesitant to confront issues like that.
I just think you're blatantly wrong. One of my issues with the Democratic Party is how Warren V. Oh wait, you're a Zionist? Okay, that explains it all.
100%. I thought that it was obvious at this point. I'm calling Iran the biggest state sponsor of terrorism. Anyone who calls them that is probably a Zionist.
Not necessarily. You can say that and also not be a Zionist. What?
I think that the Republican Party is getting less Zionist, but I think the Democratic Party is already there. So that's definitely a huge part of it also.
Okay, so you quite literally just don't like the Democratic Party because you think that they're less pro-Israel than the Republican Party.
It's not that I think, and it's not the sole reason. It's a bunch of reasons, but they are less. You could look at the
Vintage.
polls.
Thank you for the Galaxy. Wait, I don't dispute you. I agree.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
actually, that's something that I think is good on behalf of the Democrats comparative to the Republicans. Because I
Okay.
think our involvement in the Middle East has historically destabilized the region. It's cost us trillions of dollars. It hasn't benefited us in any meaningful way. Tell me, how much has the trillions of dollars that we spent over the past 20 years and 30 years really benefited us? Tell me, explain.
Yeah, Israel and the United States share on counterintelligence, counterterrorism. They share on technology. Israel's basically a base for the United States. I know that America doesn't have any real bases in Israel, but it serves as a satellite little America in the region. Do I think that I'm not up here
I
saying
disagree.
that oh, that's fine. I'm not saying that America needs to support Israel for the end of time. I'm against foreign aid to Israel in perpetuity. But to say that America and Israel don't benefit from each other is just not true.
Oh,
There's no reason.
I'm asking what's the benefit? And all you said is that they're a base for us and they help us with counterterrorism. Sounds like both of those problems, right, are trying to solve things that are generated from our relationship with them in the first place. Because you know that like the cause of terrorism towards the United States is the U.S.'s relationship with the state of Israel and involvement in the Middle East. That's a great cause of terrorism targeted towards the U.S. You know that, right?
All wars that the United States has fought in the Middle East, do you believe is because of Israel?
I think that, yes, I think we're fighting them on behalf of the state of Israel outside of the context of, obviously there is a notion of like after we've been attacked specifically on 9/11, we got to respond. But why did we get attacked on 9/11? Because of a relationship with the state of Israel. You're just actually kind of pointing into the fact that targeted towards the United States is caused by our relationship with the state of Israel. So you understand that if we stopped having this type of relationship with the state of Israel, thank you, Ron, I appreciate your counselor, if we stopped giving all this foreign aid to them, right, and under your view, treating them as a quote-unquote base for us, maybe we wouldn't have all these needs for intelligence relating to counterterrorism in the first place. So, like, what actual benefit do we get, net benefit, from our relationship with the state of Israel? Because it can't just be for the problems that our relationship with them generates in the first place.
Because you use support for Israel as a justification for terrorism, that means you think that that America should stop supporting Israel?
I think it would be a reason to reduce the level of terrorism, and I think that would be that's actually evidence of the point that the counterterrorism intelligence that you're saying is important for us is only relevant to us because of our relationship with Israel in the first place. So why have a relationship with them if that causes us to have these threats of terrorism in the first place? Why? It doesn't benefit us in any, cost trillions of dollars, increases the likelihood of terrorism, right? You're saying that the benefit of our relationship is that we can reduce the level of terrorism, but it increased the level of terrorism, our relationship with the state of Israel.
So with that same logic, let's say our relationship with Egypt, if a bunch of people around the world were committing acts against us because of our relationship with Egypt, that's the reason to break off the relationship with Egypt?
Well, I'm not bringing this up as a sole reason, but it's one of the main reasons, and I feel like that would in general be like a relatively decent reason. Like, yeah, like if a certain country is causing us to have destroyed relations diplomatically around the entire world, why would we maintain that relationship? That seems against our interests.
That's exactly my point, and that's why I don't like the Democratic Party. They recede to what's it called? They capitulate to threats, and they capitulate to aggression against them instead of confronting it.
Capitulate to aggression to that. Why don't we just say that we don't want to be involved in military conflict forever, dude? We don't want this quote unquote satellite base in the Middle East that causes issues in our country. We are sick of this shit, okay? You need to get your head out of your ass and stop this 20, 30-year-old page that we've done in the Middle East that's led to millions of civilians dying. And it hasn't led to better conditions for Americans. We've spent trillions of dollars on this. We've almost bankrupted our country doing this shit. Do you realize how much of a threat this is domestically to our country? We're literally so hyper obsessed about the entire international community, specifically relating to the state of Israel, that we're not even focused on things here in our country, that we ignore our country here at home. We have so many problems here in our country. 45 to 68,000 American lives lost every single year due to lack of health insurance. Right? Because people can't afford their health insurance, because there are 137 million Americans over that with medical debt that they can't afford. There are people in this country that have vast levels of student debt they're paying off until they're 40 years old, 50 years old in some instances, right? That limits them from building up families, taking care of their kids, right? And growing their base for investment, which obviously is going to be beneficial to them in terms of social mobility and to our society as a whole in terms of social mobility. And yet the country that we're funding has these things. Israel has all of these things. We're funding them. For what? We're losing. We're in debt. We're how much in debt? The debt wasn't as near as much of a problem prior to us involving ourselves with Israel in the Middle East after 2001. And even before that, us spending all this money to them wasn't beneficial towards the debt even as well. So, I mean, I don't understand our hyper obsession with everything relating to the state of Israel in the Middle East when it's historically not led to better conditions and completely ignoring domestic issues because of it. Like what you've decided to bring up on the live isn't, oh, I want to help out Americans in this country because of this reason. It's, oh, I want to fight this war across the entire world because it makes us a little bit more respected when there's actually no evidence indicating that in the first place. You are ignoring your own country. They left. Are you serious, dude? That pisses me off. Not only because they left and they weren't willing to address it, but because, like, that relationship is not beneficial. And he couldn't even describe the benefit. The only benefits he mentioned were literally information relating to counterterrorism, which, by the way, is information limiting the terrorism that's going to be directed to us because of our relationship with the state of Israel. And then they operated as a base for us. Okay, why is them operating as a base for us when we, by the way, don't even have a base in their country? Why is that beneficial to us? I have yet to hear a reason. Seems like they can't justify that. Let's go on to the next person.